We just got our fender back from paint, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to mount the rear fender on the motorcycle. Grab this bracket out of your kit. Let's see, there's a bolt in the kit. Go ahead and remove the bolt, and I'll show you how this goes together. It's really cool the way we designed this. It's just kind of a real easy thing to install. This just hooks in these holes like this. So what you do is you hook this around the swing arm down below, and then you swing that up, put the bolt in and situate it, and it's in. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the bracket mounted on the motorcycle. Okay, this is the bracket mounted down on the swing arm. This is the rear tire here, obviously. Okay, if I'll just pan in on this, you can see how it's mounted in there. There's the run the bolt up through the bottom, and then there's the nut on the top there. So the nut's on the top, and that little window is in there. You can kind of use that to see the bolt when you shove it up through there. So you just kind of hook that around the swing arm. And if your tire isn't too much oversized, go ahead and slide the bracket back toward the tire like I have here. Now if your tire's a little oversized, go ahead and slide the bracket toward the front of the motorcycle as you tighten this up. Now one thing, you don't need to get that ridiculously tight. Just snug her up there until this edge here almost touches the top bracket. And that'll just situate that in there nice. I mean, you don't want it to slide around, but you don't need to get too carried away. I'll just keep bending the sheet metal. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the top view. Now, if you notice too, my bracket's not painted. It's much easier to see down in there. So, okay, if you'll notice, I've offset the brackets just a little bit to the left side here of the tire. That way, when your bolts in your fender in the center, it's got a little more slot there to locate it on. So you can go a little left to center on the swing arm. So anyway, there's how it looks when it's mounted in there. Kind of pound around here. So anyway, go ahead and mount that in your on your swing arm there like that, and then we'll show you how to mount the fender. Okay, go ahead and mount this bracket to the left side of the motorcycle. You just remove the axle nut and then go ahead and put that bracket on just like that, and it should locate on that little ridge right here, just like this is shown here. So go ahead and snug that back up nice and tight, and then we'll do the right side. This is the rear strut bracket for the right side of the swing arm here. If you'll notice how I've mounted it over the axle right there like that. Just kind of angle it so it kind of angles up this way for now. You don't need to get it too close because we're going to adjust that a little bit later. And then I'll show you about where it mounts on the... It mounts to the outside... Whoops, sorry about that. It mounts to the outside of the swing arm this way. So go ahead and mount that on there like that just temporarily, and we'll put the fender on. This is our rear fender. I've got it back from paint, and I've gone ahead and put the bracket on the front here. If you'll notice, I put the screw through this way. Now we give you the small drill in the kit, so the way I do it is I drill the one hole first, put the screw in it, and then drill the other hole. That way they line up really perfectly, and that works a little easier. So anyway, you'll notice I put the head of the screw this way, and then on the back side. That's how it looks on the back. I put a little bit of the silicone sealant under that, just to help hold that so it won't rotate and kind of seal it off there. So go ahead and mount that. I like to do this after the paint too, because if you get any silicone on the fender, your painter will hate it. So, okay, and then this is the back strut brace. You notice, go ahead and put silicone under this. The reason you want to silicone this in there is because later on, if you remove your fender, you don't want this strut brace to fall out and fight it when you're putting the struts in. So I've gone ahead and silicone that in there, and put the screws in and let it dry overnight if you can. And then we'll go ahead and mount this little baby right up. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit on the screws that go on these rear struts. I want to make sure that you don't forget to put the Loctite on the threads. Just put a little Loctite on these threads before you put this in here, because it's really important, because you don't want these to vibrate and come out. So do that, and then I'll show you how to mount the fender. This is how your fender looks after you mount it. I'm going to go ahead and go over it with you real quick. Okay, this is how it mounts on the front mount. You just slide it in the slot here and then push it over, and there's the washers on this side along with the nut, the line lock nut. So that goes there, and you want to center this fender on the bike. So try to get that kind of centered before you put the rear struts on. And this is the rear struts. Now if you'll notice, this is on the left side, it's the strut that has the most bend in it. That's the left one. And if you look down here, lower the camera down here. That's how it mounts. It mounts to the outside of the black bracket there that you put on earlier. And the nylock nut, the washer and the head of the screws on the outside. It's adjustable. It has a slot in it, so you can adjust it up and down. Then the nylock nut is on the inside. And then it's the same on this side. This is the strut that has the least amount of bend in it. And it mounts on that bracket just like that. And, the head and the washer on this side, and then the nylock nut is on the inside. And then we'll go back up to the top here. This is the, it mounts under the fender like that. The rubber washer's on the outside. This just screws right into the to the strut on the inside there. So now what you do on this is you kind of put all this together and kind of situate it around. You want to, everything's adjustable. The slots and everything allow you to adjust the fender. So make sure the front is adjusted properly, and then make sure the back of the fender is centered on the tire really well. Because when you look back from the back, you don't want that fender to be cockeyed on there. And allow you enough clearance under the underside so you don't get too close to the tire there for the threads, the nut on the bottom to hit. So go ahead and situate your fender, mount her up there, and kind of straighten it out, and then double check everything, make sure it's nice and tight when you get finished. And then make sure and Loctite these. And then later on, if you ever decide to take the fender off, well, you'll have to eventually to change a tire or whatever, just undo the front screw and then the bottom screws here, and you can take the fender right off. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll put the front fender on. Oh, and one final note on this right side, this block here that has the two screws in it, make sure you double check and snug those up. You can see it's a little cockeyed to this, but that doesn't matter. As long as it's fairly straight to the strut, that should be fine. So anyway, go ahead and snug those up. Let's go ahead and mount the front fender. It's a real simple process, so just pay attention here. Let's see. Okay, this is the back of the fender. That's the area that has the flat on it. So that will be the back of the bike. And then there's the screws on the outside. It's the Phillips screw with the rubber washer under it. And then I'll flip this over and show you how this goes. Now I've just got this hand assembled right now. I didn't tighten this, so you don't need to tighten it yet. Okay, if you'll notice, there's the steel strap here. Then the strut goes on the outside of the steel strap, so this strap is under the strut. And then there's the nylock nuts and the washers right under the nylocks there. So go ahead and put that together just like that. And we'll go ahead and mount this to the motorcycle. You can leave these loose. Next, go ahead and slide the fender in between the forks, and then go ahead and install these screws down here on the, there's some shoulder screws that we include in the fender kit. Go ahead and install those. You can leave all this stuff a little loose. Oh, one thing, be sure and Loctite these four screws down here. We don't use the nylock nuts on those, obviously, so you don't want those to come up, loosen up as you ride along. The front fender bounces up and down a lot, so make sure you Loctite those. And there's the right side. Now on ours, we were able to run the brake hose bracket on the inside of the strut here. That's nice, because then the strut's exactly the same as the other side. So shoulder screws on this side, and then all you have to do is just go ahead and snug everything up, and as you tighten everything up together, make sure that the fender stays nice and centered on the tire. And that's how it should look when it's finished up. Double check everything, make sure everything's snug, because like I say, you don't want this coming loose. It looks nice.